Mr. Papian, as we see, the story is repeating. I mean, there is nothing new. It's happened before. It's gonna be happen in future if we will not change our behavior. How could Armenian government rely on Russia, seeing always the same way of treatment, same behavior? How they could rely on that?
You see, the problem is that if you want to keep the power in Armenia or become the government of Armenia, you need Russian support. Russia is very strong in Armenia with her agent, people of influence, Russian TVs, and the first language for many Armenians until now in Armenia is Russian. And all Armenians watch Russian TVs, let's say, which is forbidden in many European countries because it's clear-cut propaganda, and they are under that propaganda. And in this situation, the only way to keep the power, let's say Nikol Pashinyan, if he wants to keep the power, he needs to create, let's say, better relations with Russia, which is to implement what they will ask. Let's take an example. You remember that Nikol Pashinyan spoke about 60 million of misused money in South Caucasian railroads, Южно-Кавказской железной дороги. And then Lavrov spoke against that and told, never dare to speak about this, it will stop. I mean, how we can fight the corruption in Armenia, where all main fields of Armenian economy, energy, gas, railroads, and many other parts, nuclear power station, are given to Russia or as property or them as a concession. This is the problem. The people very often tell us, I mean National Democratic Pole of Armenia, Azgan Jogtavarakan Bever, okay, speak more pro-Russian, be more pro-Russian to have more votes. They are right. If you aim, your goal is just to have votes and become a member of parliament. But it's not our aim. We want to improve the situation. We don't are running after the chair in parliament. And this is the case. Everybody knows that Russia controls the inner situation in the country. And this is that we are in a position when we speak frankly, clearly, which happened in Armenia, we can see that Russian propaganda always is creating a big anti, let's say, the Pol Hakka Beverakan, let's say, anti-Pol movement and commentaries all over there. And I am sure that after this program, we'll see that many of them will write against me and against other political powers that see the reality. It's a lot of falsifications, call and name, Sorosakan, and many, many other things, because they want people to be just under Russian influence. And but we don't want to be one of that 17 parties that, you know, they are fighting Nikol Pashinyan, but they are fighting in that way that showing Russia that we are more pro-Russian, as happened with Nikol Pashinyan. Nikol Pashinyan was criticizing Serge Sarkisyan to be very pro-Russian, and now he came and became more pro-Russian than Serge Sarkisyan or Kocharyan's were, because at least Serge Sarkisyan rejected to send a unit from our army against the West in Syria, but Nikol Pashinyan did. And it's very strange when people say, why West did not support Armenia during the war? Are you foolish? You are fighting against them, against Western interests, and you are asking West to support you. Be thankful to United States and West that Armenia is not under punishment, under the blockade, because other country, I am sure, if instead of Armenia there was another country doing the same, sending a unit under Russian flag to Syria, the country would become under punishment and blockade. But until now, we are getting support from West in money, in technology, and humanitarian aid. This is the situation what they have on the ground.
What do you think, Mr. Papian, after this war? So it was obvious what's going on, who is our enemy, who is our ally. Is there any changes in people's mind, I mean, like in values? Is there any changes? What do you think?
Yes, we can feel that we are having more and more support from people, and people are changing their minds, because you have to be blind to not to see what is going on. Also, people are concerned, even afraid of the situation, because if before the war, the understanding was that Russia will not leave Armenia alone. Now they are saying, even people who are saying will not leave alone, but you can feel that they are not sure saying this. This is very important part. They are not sure because they know that, and they understand that for Russia, relationship with Turkey and Azerbaijan, especially when they will gain this direct access to Turkey, is much more important. I want to underline that in 2023, the trade between Russia and Turkey will reach up to $100 billion. $100 billion. It's the highest volume that maybe China will be the first, Turkey will be the second one. And also, Turkey is playing the card of Turkic-speaking people within Russia very well, blackmailing Russia and gaining, let's say, the concessions from Russia. Also, Crimea. Crimea is one of the, let's say, fields of future confrontation, Russians and Turks. I'm sure that in future, there will be a confrontation between Russians and Turks. But when will be this future? Will be it after several years or several decades? It's enough time for Armenia to lose territories or maybe statehood. This is that we have to act very quickly. We have to apply, and diaspora can be the part or forerunner of this situation with the Western countries, explaining the danger that Armenia is currently. We are really in danger. If we compare the situation in Armenia or around Armenia, maybe this is the most endangered country currently in the world, because even the other countries who are fighting each other, the level of hate is not so high. Let's say Arabs and Israelis, they live together. There are more than 1 million Arabs in Israel living there. Arabs coming and going to Israel for work. Israelis, they go to many Arab countries, Egypt, and also some countries of Persian Gulf, and so on. We they have this confrontation there in many other parts, but people more or less live together. We have seen that when 1, 2, or 5 civilians remained in Armenian villages in Nagorno-Karabakh, they were tortured and killed. Even they were not part of any army. Even we know that civilians were taken into prison after signing that infamous ceasefire. Even not citizens of Armenia. We know that 2 citizens of Lebanon, and now they are, Azeris are saying that they were mercenaries fighting Azerbaijan in Nagorno-Karabakh. Even everyone knows that they were civilians living there. They escaped the situation in Lebanon. Unfortunately, met another worse situation in Nagorno-Karabakh.
Mr. Prabin, I just remember on the beginning of the war, when European countries, they start to blame Turkey being involved in the war. Do you remember in Vienna what's happened? Some guy took a gun and killed many people on the streets in Austria.
Mm-hmm.
Does that mean like any countries which will dare to speak loud against of action Turkeys, even illegal action Turkeys, they will be punished? That's why maybe Russia feels himself like as a hostage.
Yes, the countries are blackmailed by Turkey several times, especially Russia. Advisor to President of Turkey several times told that there are over 20 million Turkish people living in Russia, and they can destroy the country from within. The same, let's say, with Europe. Erdogan was blackmailing European countries, especially Germany, France, that you will have problems. In reality, they had that problems, as you mentioned already. And now there are some linkage of information from military intelligence and head of military intelligence of Turkey spoke about that many political activists in Europe were killed by the order of state of Turkey. They were, let's say, of Kurdish origin, of local origin, and so on. This really creates a hard situation for the countries. And you know, the European civilization now is non-confrontational. The understanding is if we will be
Nice,
warm, soft, nice to others, others also will be have the same approach to us. It's not a realistic vision. What is going on in Europe now? Armenia has passed a millennium ago, maybe 700 years ago. The same situation was when Turks came to Armenia, historical Armenia. They were in minority. And then step by step, from year to year, from century to century, they gained power, and then political power, and then economic power, and the final stage was the genocide. The final aim of these people in Europe is the same: to gain power, and the final stage will be genocide of local people in Europe. They do not understand this because it's impossible to understand that kind of reality, because people think, okay, it's 21st century, what is possible? It's possible. It's quite possible, which is going on already on the territory of Turkey. They are killing people. They had done genocide, and the genocide is going on against many people. And if they will have the possibility to repeat that genocide in Armenia or in Europe, they will do that. Or in Russia, even in Russia as well. Regardless the Russian approach to Turkey.
Mr. Papian, I was going to ask again about, so you mentioned the role of diaspora briefly, and I want to ask you, I think personally, many Armenians are often under the impression that we must rely on Russia for security guarantees and other things because they don't see a way out. And as you mentioned, Russia is also kind of in the same situation where they see Armenia as having no other party to turn to, which creates this toxicity in the relationship between Russia and Armenia. And so, in your opinion, how can you see this transition out from under the Russian thumb? How can you see this being navigated in a safe and secure fashion, avoiding any kind of escalation of conflict or anything like that, especially now with the presence of Russian peacekeepers in Karabakh for the first time, and also the presence of Turkish presence in the area for the first time in a very long time? That has definitely changed the dynamic in the area. So can you speak to the role of the peacekeepers in the area? How can we disentangle ourselves from Russian influence, and what is the role of the diaspora moving forward if we want to align ourselves with the West and with the United States? Can we capitalize on that involvement as well?
You are right that there are many in diaspora that are very, very pro-Russian, and they are speaking about keeping this Russian influence over Armenia. And this, usually I tell them that come to live in Armenia under that circumstances, because you are endangering with your steps and speeches our lives that we live in Armenia. Come live in Armenia or go live in Russia. Why you are staying in New York, Paris, and somewhere and speaking about Russian positive influence over what you have seen and what you know about Russian influence? I already told that the mother of this all corruption is in Armenia is Russia. It's impossible to fight corruption in Armenia because the all fields, all these major industry, everything belongs to Russia. Secondly, who was supplying
Weapons.
ammunitions to Russia, to Azerbaijan? Russia. Who was in favor taking as peacekeepers Turks in South Caucasus? Not West, it was Russia. And now we have 60 so-called, they're not called peacekeepers, but some kind of instructors, monitors. Let's say they have to have this military monitoring, to do military monitoring in there. 60 Turks and 60 Russians. Why? Why Turkey was given some kind of privilege? Turkey was not part of Troika. It was Russia, France, and the United States. And by the way, United States proposed Armenia to send Scandinavian peacekeepers to Nagorno-Karabakh. Why Armenia rejected this proposal? Some people say it was just a proposal. How do you know? They proposed, gave your consent to that, and then we'll see, was it just a word or they would implement their promise. The same with France. France at least twice proposed Armenia ammunitions and new, let's say, fifth generation weapons. Why Nikol Pashinyan refused them to that? Because, as I told, he wants to be a good guy for Russians, because Russians will not be satisfied of that. And because of this, not having these modern weapons, we gave thousands and thousands more victims in Nagorno-Karabakh. What we have to do, first of all, in Karabakh conflict, we have to do everything to restore the Troika of Minsk group. I mean, United States, France, and Russia, all three countries must be involved in the solution of Nagorno-Karabakh. which means we have to underline that Nagorno-Karabakh conflict is going on. It wasn't solved by a war, because war was violation of the first principle that always was discussed during these almost 30 years of negotiations, not using the force. The second one was self-determination of people, and just the third one was the so-called integrity of the borders. And what we have now, only Azeris gained of this situation. And this is why, at least in the first stage, involvement of United States and France. The second one, direct negotiations with the United States to become non-NATO, it's called major non-NATO ally to United States. There is a special law in the United States. Many countries have this status. Well, let's say South Korea, Israel, Australia, New Zealand, and so on. Why we can't? We have at least to negotiate this, to try to have it. And if Russia will betray Armenia, they will betray in any way. This is the case. We do not have other choice. We have to find other countries, maybe alongside with Russia, to secure our safety of the country, of the people in Armenia, because the economy, and also we need more investment. Can Russia have this investment in Armenia in near future? I have big doubts. Not because Russia herself is in their situation. They do not have real money to do this. And Putin spoke about food, how it called, food stamps for people in Russia. It shows that Russia even cannot feed for people. The biggest country in the world that before Russian Revolution was exporting wheat, grain, and everything, meat, now they cannot even feed themselves. And now they have to have these food stamps and so on of all the people. And you or others believe that Russia will give Armenia more than to her oblasts or gubernia or to republics within Russia. No, we do not have border with Russia. If Russia even wants to protect Armenia, it will be very hard. Why they now have this so-called peacekeeper mission in Nagorno-Karabakh? It's a military base. It's not peacekeeping mission, because we have seen that what kind of weapons are there, and also we have an information that around 20,000 people can be deployed within that territory. I mean, the housing is for 20,000 people. Even now, there are almost 2,000 peacekeepers there. This shows that Russia is preparing a new military base. Why? Because supplying the base in Gyumri is almost impossible for now, because Georgia has closed the border. But the military base in north part of Karabakh is very close to the Russian Federation, and the railroad comes up to Barda. Barda is a town near Nagorno-Karabakh, and from there they will build the railway to Stepanakert and to other parts, which means they can supply their military base by the railroad, which is very important. And also they do not see Turkey as a threat for themselves, but it's a threat for us. This is the problem. They will not fight Turks for Armenians. Wow, can you imagine what is $100 million trade? What is billion and billion dollars per year going into pockets of Putin and people around him? Do you really believe that they will sacrifice all this for poor Armenians? They will not do this. maybe you will ask, and will Americans do this? I'm not sure. But this is the only way, because at least in the United States, it's a democratic country, and the lobby has an effect. We have more than 100 congressmen, 50 senators supporting Armenian case, and we have all these structures we can do. And the United States, they are interested to have this double containment policy in South Caucasus to contain Turkey and Russia coming together. As I told, this synergy of these two countries is very dangerous for West, because these two countries are anti-Western. What makes them to come together? This anti-Western position. Both countries hate West. And it's based. Let's say the policy is based on their approach against the West. And this unifies them.
Yes, you mentioned also, you spoke to the importance of investments in Armenia, and the economic situation in Russia declining. Do you think that could be one of the factors that can bring us closer to America and the West, is the increased maybe investment of members of the diaspora that live in the United States, maybe repatriating, returning to Armenia, or at least investing money in Armenia and kind of increasing that presence, the Western presence in the region. Can you speak a little bit more to the importance of, and how can we align with the United States and the West? Is there a way for us to kind of broker that relationship? What can we do?
We have to realize that Armenia needs much more money, that diaspora has that capacity. We have seen that during the war, diaspora was doing her best, and $100 million were collected, because it was totally 170 million. 70 million was given by Armenia. I mean, the capacity of diaspora is 100 million, not more. And it cannot be done each year, because diaspora has to satisfy her existence, has her expenses there, keeping schools, lot of organizations, and so on. And we know that they are the same pockets. The money is not on the trees. And the economic situation now, it's also because of COVID, is not in a good condition. This shows that only a country, a state, can help. Let's say for the United States, they can implement a program like Marshall Program or so, that it was done after World War II, touch South Caucasus, at least for Armenia or Georgia, all this case. And then, let's say for the United States, couple of billions of dollars per year is not big money. It's almost nothing. The important thing is the political decision for the United States. And we see diaspora, at least I see diaspora, mainly as a lobbyist of this idea to make closer politically Armenia and the United States. And why I'm preparing all these historical documents on Woodrow Wilson, his papers, and a lot of other official documents showing that we have close, because I understand that creating this atmosphere of friendship that we had over 100 years, it will help us. This is creation better political relations with the United States, with the help of the diaspora as a bridge between Armenian government and US government. But here we have a big problem of the Armenian government. Last year, I was lobbying for several months just to get a couple of square meters of land in Yerevan in proper place to erect a statue for Woodrow Wilson as a person who saved 132,000 orphans in American orphanages. Let's forget for now the arbitral award. Just a humanitarian support. Over $1 billion at that time was given to Armenia. I mean, to Armenians, not only to state, but to Armenians, which means it over $22 billion in today's rate. It's huge money, and it was the biggest ever support that United States did at that time. I mean, after World War I. And we have to first be thankful to the United States, but Nikol Pashinyan did not answer to my letters, to my calls, and even with the centennial of official relationship between Armenia and the United States, because the United States recognized the Republic of Armenia on April 23, 1920, was ignored. The centennial of arbitral award by Woodrow Wilson was ignored. Everything that deals or relates to the United States is ignored in Armenia. And this is why in this situation, I have doubts that Pashinyan government will have courage and political will to act properly. Because just refusing for a small land for monument, because the main problem was Russian attitude. What will be the Russian response to that? We all remember with this Nezhde statue that each time they're blaming Armenia and Nezhde that being pro-Nazi and so on, when everybody knows that Nezhde never was pro-Nazi in terms, he never fought against Soviet army. And even in official documents, the conviction is not, there is no mention of cooperation or collaboration with Nazis or fascists. He just, he was reminded that he was fighting Bolsheviks in 1920, in May 1920 up to July 1921.